Hello there and welcome to my talk on queer reparations through fan fiction, how Wolfstar heals wounds inflicted by heteronormativity. My name is Katherine Davis-Wright and I'm a doctoral student at the University of Sheffield in the UK. I have just submitted my doctoral thesis, which is to do with creative writing pedagogy. And for this I use my experiences as a teacher of English at a UK secondary school, as well as my experiences as a writer of both novels and of fan fiction, to come up with a study that was to do with the development of authorial identity in young people and how writing fan fiction and engaging with curricular creative writing contributed to that sense of authorial identity. As well as this, I'm also a huge Harry Potter fan and someone who's written copious amounts of Harry Potter fan fiction. So today we're going to speak about fan fiction, particularly focusing on fan fiction about the relationship between two Harry Potter characters, Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, also known as Wolfstar. But first, a definition of fan fiction then. What is fan fiction? Well, it's where fans of a particular media or literary phenomenon write narratives using the pre-existing plots, characters and or settings from their favourite media. It can really be on anything. Today obviously we're focusing on Harry Potter fan fiction, and even within that fandom itself we're focusing on a particular ship, but we will also it is possible to apply this theory across more than one fandom or domain. So if we think about Barth's idea of the death of the author, where the birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author, and this idea of kind of divorcing the creator of the text from the work itself, which may be convenient given the views of the author of the text in question. Actually, in fan fiction, this is a bit different, because actually in fandom the author may be dead, as Copper argues, but the writer, the actively scribbling embodied woman, is very much alive. You can talk to her, you can write to her and ask her questions about her work, and she'll probably write back to you and answer that. This idea of the author, the writer, is someone being alive and responsive is really important in support of Mears's argument that the audience's construction of meaning in the textual world is complex and socially constructed, and bound and based on the audience's class, ethnicity, gender and nationality as well. This affordance then to extend the canon into fanon, which is kind of defined as fan created or fan accepted versions of a text, means that actually fan fiction writers as well can explore textual worlds in an alternative and non-heteronormative way. I have also developed a theoretical framework to help us understand this notion. It's developed from two theorists, Sedgwick and G, and I'm going to talk a little bit about their theories on the following slides. First of all, we have Sedgwick's 2002 theory of reparative reading, where she argues that because texts are so heteronormative, and because queer people see so little representation of themselves in popular media, possibly due to things like the Hays Code, which governed kind of how films and movies were set out and were able to be created, actually this kind of effect of only seeing heteronormative representation is harmful to queer people. And by queering texts, by reading text in a queer way, actually that is something that is reparative. So in order to undo some of the harm that has been done by society in this way, reading text queerly can help to be reparative. G also argues in his 2002 paper about using identity as an analytic lens for education that there are certain spaces called affinity spaces. And here G talks about an example of a Star Trek fan, somebody who exists as a Trekkie, could be considered to be in an affinity space when they attend a convention, or they kind of experience other parts of being part of that fandom, such as attending shows, meeting actors from the fandom, chatting on the internet, collecting merchandise or memorabilia, dressing up, cosplay, and also writing and reading fan fiction. And an affinity group then is made up of people who may be dispersed across a large space, a bit like we all are today, and may in fact be in different countries. They may share little else beside their interest in, say, Star Trek, or in our case, Harry Potter. However, what the people in the group share, and must share to constitute an affinity group, is an allegiance to, access to, and participation in specific practices that provide each of the group's members with the requisite experiences. So I argue that taking part in kind of Harry Potter fan fiction and fandom online is an affinity space. So obviously in this presentation, like I've said, we're looking at two characters, Remus Lupin and Sirius Black, who are obviously Marauders era characters from the Harry Potter series. Canonically, Remus and Sirius are just close friends. Ever since their Hogwarts days, they're best friends. However, if we apply Sedgwick's reparative reading theory, we see that many Wolfstar shippers queer the texts, making interpretations of the canon of the books and the films that incorporate queer elements. Over the next couple of slides, I'm going to demonstrate what a queer reading of the Harry Potter books could look like, specifically in terms of Wolfstar. So, for example, this passage is taken from Prisoner of Azkaban. It's a scene in the Shrieking Shack where Lupin has just worked out that actually Black perhaps was not the traitor. But then, Lupin muttered, staring at Black so intently it seemed he was trying to read his mind, why hasn't he shown himself before now? Unless... Lupin's eyes suddenly widened, as though he was seeing something beyond Black, something none of the rest could see. Unless he was the one, unless you switched without telling me. Very slowly, his sunken gaze never leaving Lupin's face, Black nodded. So again, on the face of this looks quite platonic. It's obvious that the two characters know each other quite well. We've got phrases such as staring at Black so intently and Black's sunken gaze never leaving Lupin's face. There's a lot of non-verbal communication going on here. So, for example, also from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is this extract. Professor Lupin, Harry interrupted loudly. What's going... But he never finished the question, because what he saw made his voice die in his throat. Lupin was lowering his wand. Next moment he had walked to Black's side, seized his hand, pulled him to his feet so that Crookshanks fell to the floor, and embraced Black like a brother. So at this point, Lupin has chosen to believe Sirius. He's convinced by Sirius's argument, and he wants to make amends for the time that they've spent apart. To Harry, it looks like he is embracing Black like a brother, but to greet somebody that you haven't seen in such a long time in a way that is described as familial implies a closeness of relationship, a closeness of bond that possibly transcends just friendship. Of course, we also have this still accompanying the slide here, which is taken from this moment in the film. And I ask you to reflect on whether this eye contact, this gesture between them, screams brotherly affection, or perhaps whether it could imply something else. Another scene that Wolfstar shippers sometimes use as evidence of a more than familial love between Sirius and Remus is this scene from The Order of the Phoenix, when the members of the Order of the Phoenix plus the Weasley children, Hermione and Harry, are having dinner, and Harry is demanding to know what is going on. There's an argument between Mrs. Weasley and Sirius, and it is Remus who plays peacekeeper between these two quite fiery entities. "Yes," said Mrs. Weasley, her lip curling. "The thing is, it's been rather difficult for you to look after him while you've been locked up in Azkaban, hasn't it?" Sirius started to rise from his chair. "Molly, you're not the only person at this table who cares about Harry," said Lupin sharply. "Sirius, sit down." Mrs. Weasley's lower lip was trembling. Sirius sank slowly back into his chair, his face white, and slightly later in the scene. "No." It was not Mrs. Weasley who spoke this time, but Lupin. "The Order is comprised only of overage wizards," he said. "Wizards who have left school," he added, as Fred and George opened their mouths. "There are dangers involved of which you can have no idea, any of you. I think Molly's right, Sirius. We've said enough." Sirius half shrugged, but did not argue. So we have this idea of Remus being somebody who can handle Sirius and his moods and his temperament. I get the impression that only Remus could have given Sirius an instruction to sit down and expected it to be followed. And, Sirius has done as asked by Remus, first time without argument. Again, it is Remus saying no to him, and Sirius half shrugs but does not argue at this point. It's clear that there is certainly a deep friendship and a respect between them, but he is handling Sirius in a way that perhaps a lover might. Perhaps the most conclusive piece of evidence, of course, is this part. Sometimes, however, the visitors stayed to help. Tonks joined them for a memorable afternoon in which they found a murderous old ghoul lurking in an upstairs toilet, and Lupin, who was staying in the house with Sirius, but who left for long periods to do mysterious work for the Order, helped them to repair a grandfather clock. Now, that part where it describes in Prisoner of Azkaban that Lupin was staying in the house with Sirius implies again a living arrangement that perhaps transcends friendship, and I think shows that the two men are very close and want to spend lots of time together since they have been separated by Azkaban for the last 12 years. Another piece of evidence from Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is here. "He can't come back, Harry," said Lupin, his voice breaking as he struggled to contain Harry. So in this moment, Remus, having just watched Sirius fall through the veil, is concerned not only with his own grief but also with trying to contain Harry, which he's struggling to do because of the enormity of Harry's grief as well. And we get the sense here that he is struggling in many senses. His voice is breaking, he's struggling to contain Harry. I think obviously this would be the case for anyone who had just witnessed the death of a friend, but particularly if it was the death of a lover. On AO3, some users have created statistics to do with the popularity of certain ships. We see that actually Wolfstar is something that is enduringly popular, with it being in position number 5 out of the top 500 fandoms. It is the most popular pairing in the Harry Potter fandom, and we can see that it has actually dropped 3 places since the last statistics before that were made. So it is something that is enduringly popular, and something that lots of people are writing about and reading about to this day. Some fan fiction in particular, such as this story, All the Young Dudes by Miss King Bean 89, is really, really popular in the fandom. And as we can see here, I've kind of circled some of the metrics to do with this fiction. It is over 500,000 words long. It has 188 chapters. It's had lots of engagement from the rest of the fandom as well, with 45,012 comments and nearly 300,000 kudos being attributed to it when I made this slide. So we can see that it's something that is enduringly popular. This is kind of the 7 books of Harry Potter. It kind of mirrors the 7 years that the Marauders spent at Hogwarts, plus story that goes on after they've left Hogwarts, and is a really interesting and long fic that is really popular in the fandom. If you browse a fan fiction site such as an archive of our own, or fanfiction.net or MuggleNet, you will be able to see within minutes the diversity of the canon. You'll be able to see the different routes that different writers take Wolfstar down. Lots of writers write about the Marauders era because it exists within the confines of Hogwarts as we know it, something that's clearly defined in the canon. But a lot of the characters are a lot less well defined. Certainly characters like Mary, for example, or Lily Evans. And there are several kind of enduringly popular ships as well as Wolfstar within this era. So, for example, James Potter and Regulus Black. And lots of texts explore multiple aspects of different ships or competing ships at the same time, which is also interesting. And it isn't just fan fiction. On the slide here we can see some examples of fan art as well that's been created within this domain of Wolfstar, and again is a way of reparation, a way of resisting against the heteronormative narrative that the author of the canon has created, and queering it, making it something that is normal and much less heteronormative. So taking us back then to our theoretical framework, let's look first of all at G's affinity spaces theory. So I think that we argue really that as a multimodal literacy practice, fan fiction is communal and collaborative. Communal because it is something that is able to be shared easily between people in the fandom, and collaborative because comments left on fan fiction can be directly read and acted upon in later chapters by fan fiction writers. Fan fiction uses established textual worlds, the canon, as a place for fans of that textual world to interpret, rewrite, develop and explore possibilities for character settings and plots. So, with that idea in mind then, within this community there are a myriad of different writers with different ideas about the fandom, the canon, and how that should be interpreted and or queered, and its fanon as well, which, as we've discussed, is defined as fantasy based on the needs of individual writers rather than the reality established by the shared source text. In this sense then, different works of fan fiction are working with and against one another, which gives a larger understanding of a given universe. So engagement within fan fiction is engagement within affinity space for Harry Potter, and fan fiction writers can engage in that space and learn from each other, entertain each other, and improve their own writing skills and authorial identity. So if we remind ourselves then of Sedgwick's reparative reading, just a reminder of that quotation from her paper there, is about the desire of a reparative impulse, is essentially to make a reparation to queer people through the representation of kind of queer love in media. So engaging with that theory then, I argue that fan fiction writing, in particular queer or slash fan fiction such as Wolfstar or other examples, although as we've established Wolfstar is my ship, is a form of reparative writing then. So reparative writing, like reparative reading, wants to heal societal wounds and break down heteronormativity, and it is active. It requires remixing of text to create new realities where less harm is done to queer people. So I think it's really important that we recognise that this reparative writing is a more active process than perhaps queering the text through reparative reading is. And it's a way for fanfiction writers to reclaim agency over the stories that they want to write, the stories that they want to tell, and possibly over their own stories as well, as they make reparations, include representation of the kind of stories that they want to see, and explore the canon through the lens of a queer relationship. So in conclusion then, if we're thinking about Wolfstar as a concept, Wolfstar as reparative reading and as a way of healing the wounds inflicted by the societal norm of heteronormativity, I would argue that fanfiction writers use fandom as an affinity space. It is a place where people can connect. The only thing that may connect them is their shared interest, shared love in Harry Potter. And in fanfiction, it could be more specific than that, as a subset of fandom that is particularly looking at Wolfstar. They may use fanfiction writing, and again particularly /fanfiction, to increase representation and to right societal wrongs, by which I mean the harm being done to queer people by just existing, of which Sedgwick speaks. And in this way then the community is inclusive and supportive. It is a safe space for people developing different types of identity, so both authorial identity and sexual orientation identity as well. And it's something I think that has been around for a long time, and something that I hope will continue to be around for a long time, for another generation of people enjoying Wolfstar. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Goodbye.